I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. You're your host, Christina Barr. And we're going to be talking about, of course, what happened in Venezuela, some interesting reactions that I've been seeing from the left and the Libs, and they're upset about it. And, and the people of Venezuela, of course, are excited about all this. And so I'm seeing people, especially on TikTok, even some people who are more left leaning saying, like, what is wrong with all of you privileged Libs that kind of don't like read the room, like let's listen and affirm these people who are having a moment. Also, JD Vance's house was attacked, so I want to talk about that. It looks like it could be more kind of trans violence. We're not 100% sure if this person is trans, but it is a guy who started going by Julia, so safe to assume, but we can never be too certain, I suppose. We'll be talking about that. Also, assuming there's still time, I want to also talk about something interesting that happened on Sunday. Scott Adams, who is dying of cancer, said, well, there was a bit of an announcement online, at least I saw people sharing and captions saying that Scott was converting to Christianity. So I've been praying for Scott, like a lot of people have been praying for Scott. I've been following Scott for a while, but I never really was very much into Dilbert. That's what he's famous for, but he guessed that Donald Trump is going to win the 2016 election basically by his skill set and his manner of persuasion that he had with the masses and stuff. And so I thought that was fascinating. So I was following Scott, watching his periscopes and things like that. And so, I knew he was an atheist. And so I've been, praying for him, praying for other people, obviously. And so I watched the video that he posted. I'm like, why are people saying that he has converted? And then he said some things about Christianity that weren't how it works. And so I was a little frustrated, I guess, with everybody who was just like, oh, yes. I'm like, okay, we need someone to like explain the gospel to him, because what his perception is completely wrong. And so I guess he got overwhelmed and said he was thinking about not doing it. And I got lectured for my pushback. And I'm like, I've been praying for him too. I just want him to understand the gospel, not basically just be doing it because he's hedging his bets here. But I at least want other people observing to understand what the gospel message is, and not everybody to affirm this idea that you just wake up into heaven, you don't have to do anything before you're dying or anything, because that's not how it works. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And I was surprised by people getting angry at me about it. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing okay, doing well. Had a nice Christmas. We haven't talked since, I guess, AmFest, really, since that whole ordeal went down. I haven't gone live in a while. I took Christmas off and then didn't do anything for like New Year's around that time. And I got really sick. My nephew got the flu around Christmas time, and he passed that off to one of my sisters, and then it just spread further. And I got it. My sister who I live with, we both had it. And so it's funny because we had she had it worse than I did, my sister Katrina. But I don't think I've had the flu before because I don't think I've felt all the way that I've felt. She said she's never felt that sick either. We had chills. Hers were more extreme than mine were. Had aches. Hers were more extreme than mine, but I had, felt it like in the back of my head, and so I'll get like headaches and stuff up here sometimes, but it was like all back here kind of throbbing my head and stuff. And I never got a fever, but I slept so much. I slept so much. Way more than I can ever really remember sleeping. So we ended up going to urgent care uh to get some kind of medication or something. So we explained our nephew tested positive for the flu. We told them our symptoms, and she's just kind of nodding. She's like, "It sounds like COVID." I'm like, "What do you mean it sounds like COVID?" Like, and I'm thinking like they don't really give you anything for COVID, do they? Don't they just tell you basically take some cold medicine and go home or whatever? And so I'm like, our nephew tested positive for the flu. We have the flu. And so they're like, "Well, we don't have any flu kits," because it's a lot of people are getting the influenza A. As soon as I started looking up stuff about it or whatever on TikTok, it was like nonstop on my feed. Everybody's dying of the plague, and so she didn't test us for that, but she did do COVID tests, which I have actually never had one before. I'm glad I wasn't part of the brainstem days because it was still weird just float around my nose like that and swirling. Um, Tested negative for COVID. I don't. Are we still obsessed with COVID? I didn't have it. So she ended up giving me some medication, for because I had like yellow coughing up stuff, which is more bacterial. And so she gave me some medication for that. And my sister had like an ear infection, so she gave her something for that and basically said, take fluids. You just got to flush it out. Um, so got some orange juice, got some oranges, got some grapes, got some soup, and took the medication she gave and got plenty of rest. And I did mostly rest. I did write a little bit um for all my book and stuff. I didn't really edit stuff. I didn't really record other things. I didn't even really watch much online for a while. I did eventually start My Hero Academia. It's pretty good. It's anime. And my sister Katrina, she couldn't even her eyes were sensitive. She couldn't really watch things at first either. And then eventually she got well enough to do that, but it was rough. Um and so I didn't know about going live yesterday because I had read some of my book the other night to my sister Tina, and I just sounded terrible after a while, and I just didn't think my voice could do it for a straight hour. And I've done the coughing thing in front of everybody and the nose dripping and all that stuff, and I just prefer not to do that. And so um hopefully I don't have any coughing spasms. My nose is still a little I'm still a little congested, but it's definitely way better. So thank you for your concerns and your prayers and things like that. I didn't announce it super early that I had the flu, but I just basically mentioned it not too long ago. So that's what's been going on with me. So I haven't posted videos really. I haven't done a live since, before Christmas. And I haven't posted an article. I haven't even posted a lot of memes or anything on my Facebook page. It's just basically I got a lot of sleep. So I needed to sleep, and I hope you guys can understand. It is just me basically who runs the stuff. So yeah, I needed the sleep, I needed the rest, and I hope you guys had a good Christmas, had a good New Year's. So anyway, lots of news going on. Of course, there's all the fraud going on in Minnesota. And what's funny about the fraud in Minnesota is there's people like denying different stuff going on, but Nick Shirley, who's a big YouTuber, he didn't uncover something that wasn't being reported on. He has a huge platform, so he's drawing a lot of attention to it. And I've heard people in Minnesota say a lot of the stuff is kind of blacked out in the media a bit, but everybody's drawing focus to it. But there's been news reports about this going on for some time. There are people who've been indicted for this stuff going on for some time, like the Feed Our Future scandal. We talked about it a little bit. It hasn't been covered enough. You would think it would have been covered more, considering that the governor of the state could have been the vice president of the United States, and that would have been a larger discussion while Kamala Harris was on the campaign trail. Again, Nick Shirley did not uncover some kind of huge secret that was going on about what was going on in Minnesota dealing with a lot of the fraud. There were all that stuff was being investigated. There have been people that were indicted. I saw you can go back and watch like old news articles about it. The New York Times covered the story. I think right before we went on break, we talked about it a bit. And one of the reasons why it was able to go on for so long is because of racism, or people not wanting to be perceived as racist. So they would, even if they would catch things that seem kind of shady, they're like, the insinuation that, oh, you think it's shady? Is it because they're Somali? It's people from Somalia, and are you racist? And so if they didn't keep like kind of pushing stuff through, people would be afraid of having those sorts of accusations on them. So even the New York Times story wrote about it from that angle. Another thing to really consider, though, that I don't hear a lot of people talked about, because people are probably wondering, like, how are they getting these thousands, I mean, not thousands, like millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars for these different groups, these organizations, the feeding, the different folks, and the elderly care, the veterans, even the childcare stuff. Like, how are they getting all these millions of dollars? And government likes to obviously waste our money, but when they have budgets for different things, they're going to spend the money. They're going to find a way to spend money if it's budgeted out. They want to do that, because if they don't spend the money, they'll have lower budgets. Like I've known people who work for the government, long time careers within governments, handling big budgets and stuff. They will find ways to spend that money, because they don't want next year someone in government saying, hey, you didn't spend all this cash, so do you need a smaller budget? Like, no, they want that budget to be the same, or they want it to be bigger. So they will find a way to dish it out to different projects for people to spend. There is no, let's figure out how to just do less. Like, one of the reasons why people hated what Elon Musk was doing is because it's just not how people operate within the government. They want to figure out how to spend more and not get less. Getting smaller budgets is weird to them. They figure out how to spend it one way or another. And then there's people who will find the dumbest way to spend it. Sometimes you go through different, like, how come cots are this much? How come the food costs this much money? This doesn't make any sense. Like, you could find discounted prices for this and that and that, and then it's government. How can people not find cheaper prices? Because they don't have to. They don't have to. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. So I'm not surprised that all this kind of money is just blown through. Like, let me show you a report. I'm not sure how old this report is, but it is from the insurance fraud from sorry, it's a restaurant fraud from the Feed the Children. And the feds watched it for 6 weeks. And only an average of 40 people showed up, but it was like $12 million federal dollars they got. and they claim to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day. And I could play the video. Look at this little building. Do you think that looks like 4 to 6,000 people comes through this building to get food? Of course it was suspicious. Of course it was crazy. People didn't care. I mean, eventually they cared. They got found out, and people went to jail. After people were buying, I think, Porsches and cash. But these people are not good stewards of our money. They're not. They're not. So here's a little bit of this news report. Someone else does like some commentary after. We're not going to watch our commentary, just going to watch the news portion.
In December of 2021, the surveillance camera overlooking this building just off Lake Street in Minneapolis. At the time, it was Safari Restaurant, which overall took in $12 million in federal child meal payments through Feeding Our Future. Safari's former co-owner, Salim Saeed, is on trial alongside Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future executive director. Safari claimed to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day. Its invoices and meal counts shown to the jury alongside the video. An FBI agent testifying that an average of 40 people came and went during the 6 weeks it was surveilled. The FBI set up a total of 12 cameras at sites claiming to serve extraordinary numbers of meals. Another was at a deli in St. Paul, also registered by defendant Salim Saeed, which claimed 1,800 meals per day. The video shown to the jury showed an average of 23 people a day coming and going. The jury was shown dozens of invoices, meal counts, and emails seized from Feeding Our Future's headquarters in St. Anthony. Some showed links to websites that randomly generated names and ages to create rosters of children who were served meals. Many were signed or sent by Amy Bach, who's charged with wire fraud, along with bribery for the alleged kickbacks that she received. Her defense attorney tried to raise doubt when it cross-examined the FBI agent, that they didn't see the back entrance where it's possible meals left packed in trucks for delivery. He pushed back, insisting they'd still see congestion. To that volume, he said, I would say it would not make any sense.
Yeah, so this made no sense ever. Still went on for a while. And of course, this is a big story. People are being, charged. And this should have shined a harsher light on Tim Walz, and he still planned to run a third term as governor. It's crazy enough that I'm assuming they vetted him when Kamala Harris picked him to be the vice president of the United States. And if her team didn't do a good enough job vetting him, of course, there's the media that's supposed to be our safeguards. It's supposed to be informing the public. How often did you hear about the fraud going on in Minnesota under his watch during that 40 days they ran? Or 100 and something. I'm sorry, 40, the first 40 days they didn't have any interviews. The 100 and some days that they ran. You didn't really hear about that. There were a lot of other scandals with Tim Walz going on. But even after all this, he's still governor of Minnesota, and then plan to run again, which you can run a third term, but usually doesn't go so well. So Democrats were shaky about it, but he planned to still go ahead and do it, regardless of all this stuff coming out. And Nick Shirley decides to do some videos, goes uber viral, and now he's like, well, I can't devote my full attention to this. I could win if I could devote all my full attention, but I can't devote all my full attention. So he's not going to be running for governor. So people assume that maybe Amy Klobuchar is going to run. And if she wins, she's going to drop out of the Senate and then appoint him. It's an interesting theory. Not sure if that's going to be the case. Amy seems a little mean. So I don't know if she's going to do a Tim Walz that solid there. But yeah, the fraud stuff is really, really crazy what's going on. but it's been going on for a while. And I know there's a lot of people, especially like in the populist right, who want there to be more. There's people who complain a lot about our money going overseas, and I get that, but there's seems to be this mindset of like, no, we shouldn't be spending it over there. We should be spending it here on our own people, and uh, but I'm like, okay, well, I'd like some fiscal responsibility somewhere at some point. And I'm not saying that I don't think that people should get help here or there with like Medicaid or food stamps and things like that. But the idea that the government should just be doing more, especially you see people on the right pushing daycare stuff. We're just not complete. Our government is just not equipped and competent and responsible with a lot of these things going on. They're just not. They're just not. And people talk about this fraud going on in Minnesota, and they're looking at it in other places in Ohio, and they're looking at it places in Washington, other places where they see that there's this Somalian population living in the United States, but you think it's just them. I mean, I don't know what your inner city schools and stuff were like growing up, but I know there's been fraud and corruption and people enriching themselves just in school districts. So thinking about how widespread this could be across so many different programs, they're gonna find a lot. There was a fraud story. I know we're jumping around different stories. We'll get to the Venezuela stuff. Um, $7 million SNAP fraud scheme in Boston was just announced. And there were two Haitian nationals that were a part of that. So there was these tiny shops and people were going in. There's not a lot of inventory at the store for people to be spending all that money there in the store. So how are all these folks coming into the store spending their SNAP money? So basically people were getting exchanging the cash for the SNAP stuff. So that was a story that was recently broken. So I'm glad they're going after this stuff. But there's not enough oversight. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of people who will get kickbacks. And there's unfortunately a lot of people who are super woke who will want to approve this stuff because they're bleeding hearts, or approve this stuff because they don't want to be racist, and so on. People in Minnesota threw Tim Walz under the bus, saying that he knew about this stuff and he just kind of let it slide. He's still probably going to be investigated and in a lot of trouble for this stuff. We'll see. We'll see what the federal government does, because Minnesota, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of a lost cause. I I don't know what they're gonna do in Minnesota. I don't. Anyway, that's an interesting story that's been going on for a minute. Of course, the most fascinating thing that just happened is that we kidnapped Nicolas Maduro in a very impressive military operation, and there's some interesting pushback that's been going on. A lot of Democrats, like Kamala Harris, didn't like it so much. But you can go back and see a lot of tweets and conjecture from a lot of Democrats talking about how terrible Maduro was, and how there's not free elections, and how they're rigged, and how he's a dictator, and how they're not going to stand for it, and all this stuff. And then we take the dictator out, and they're like, how dare you? And I don't know, one thing about politics that I don't like too much is the posturing, I suppose. I'm like, are we supposed to just, I don't know, tweet about things, I guess? And Like when you put up a bounty because the Biden administration increased it, were they expecting him to just kind of stay there? Was that just posturing? Because and you can say, well, I don't like how the U.S. did it, and I don't know how legal it is, and so on and so forth. I think that's a legitimate concern for some people, but I think for many people it's not, and they're just mad that Trump did this thing that the people of Venezuela are celebrating about, that it was a wildly successful operation, that it demoralizes our enemies, Russia, China, Iran, people who are getting a foothold in Venezuela, and they just don't like Donald Trump having a win. Because if it was Obama, I'm pretty sure a lot of these people wouldn't be flipping out the way that they are. And I was thinking, let me pose a hypothetical for you guys. Let's say it wasn't our military operation that brought Maduro in. Let's say that it was some kind of military team, like if you've seen the Extraction movie, there's 2 of them with Chris Hemsworth. And let's say it was like a team like that snuck into Venezuela, switched off the lights, got on the base, took out Maduro and his wife, and they managed to escape the country and then get back to the United States of America. It was like, hey, we got your boy and we want the 50 million. We want the 50 million. We did. We pulled it off. If we accepted Maduro from the group that kidnapped him, do you think people would go, oh, well, that's really fortunate and awesome for the United States of America, and that's a great thing, and he's going to face justice for his crimes against the United States of America and drug trafficking and all the cocaine and all that stuff? Do you think people would be cool about how that happened, or they'd still be like, darn it, under Trump? They probably, I think they still probably be like, you can't accept him. Don't give him the $50 million. You have to return the dictator president. Or maybe they wouldn't go as far to say that. Because people, they don't quite want to say that. I mean, there's a leftist marching in the street that are saying that, but I don't think I've seen any elected official Democrats saying that we need to like give him back. Because at the end of the day, I think they know that a good thing has happened. They just don't like that it happened under Trump and under their nose too, because they didn't inform Congress, which I can understand why they didn't inform Congress, which no, Donald Trump doesn't need permission from Congress to do any or every sort of military act. It's not an act of war. I mean, we're not declaring war anyway. You can say, well, if someone kidnapped your president, it's not their president. He's an evil dictator. We don't recognize him. And I guess Venezuela could be like, we're going to war. It's not going to happen. How's it going to go down? So Chuck Todd the other day, who's not a fan of President Trump, mentioned that there are people who love Trump and will praise him in whatever he does. There are plenty of people like that. I've talked to many people like that. It's pretty interesting and puzzling. And I mean everything that he does, they'll find a way to like be rah pro Trump. He's not always right, but those people exist, right? But on the flip side, there are people who hate him, and no matter what he does, they will find a way to come at Trump and criticize Trump. Even if an objectively good thing has happened, they will find it a way to make it about themselves or make it about how much they hate him. So let me give you an example regarding this issue. There's a kid named Dean Withers. He's not a kid. He's a young man, but you've probably seen him on Jubilee. He's debated, Charlie Kirk, and I think he probably talked to Ben too, but he gets around. If you're on TikTok, you know who Dean Withers is. So he did a little video about it, and he's like, well, Maduro's a bad man. true, but Donald Trump doesn't care about the people of Venezuela. And people responded to him. There was one Venezuelan girl. She's like, well, I usually like Dean's content, but to say that he's just a bad guy is an understatement. And he's not the president. He's a dictator. And the people of Venezuela are not stupid. And they don't have to believe that Donald Trump is just doing all this because he just cares about the people of Venezuela so much and wants to have a chance of democracy and so much, you know. But it's still a very good thing that has happened here for the people of Venezuela. So I started reading through some of the comments, and there was one woman, she's a Black woman, who said, oh, now the people of Venezuela, they need to know the truth about Donald Trump. They need to know that Donald Trump, he doesn't care about these people and how he be treating people with these deportations, etc., blah, blah, blah. And it was just so stupid. They're really going with the he doesn't actually care about you routine. And I know left-wing people do it all the time. I hear it all the time. Like when I defend Charlie Kirk, like Charlie Kirk, he didn't like you. I'm like, I don't know Charlie Kirk. I never met the guy. That doesn't mean I'm gonna let you lie about him saying racial slurs and a bunch of other dumb stuff. Like, that doesn't mean I'm okay with you guys celebrating his murder. What, even if he didn't like me, even if he hated my guts, but he doesn't know me. I don't know him. Like, what kind of manipulation is that? Donald Trump doesn't like you. I don't know him. I've never met him. Weird, huh? Because I sang at the rallies and been in the White House. I've never personally talked to him. My sister worked for him. I have not had a one-on-one conversation with him. He doesn't know me. I don't think he would hate me. Maybe he likes some things about me. Maybe he would find me a little too forward with some of my criticism. And, you know, I could imagine there might be a mean tweet about Christina one day. That's totally possible. It doesn't mean I'm going to let you lie on him. If you're lying about him, you know, and I'm not a sycophant. I gave out plenty of criticisms, but people trying to be like, he hates you because you're Black. He hates what does that have to do? Anything with the conversation that we're having? People do it all the time. When I was talking about critical race theory, people are against it because they're racist. Do you know anything about this subject? No, but people are against it because they're racist. No, I think this is a racist ideology that I've read about it. I've looked into. I know more about it than you do. You're trying to manipulate me because I'm Black. You're trying to use my race against me and think I would be all emotional and be like, oh, well, they say it's racist, so I just gotta be against it. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Which Candace Owens did that the other day. Not the other day, but a couple weeks ago. She was really mad about AmFest. Was really mad about Ben Shapiro talking about her. So she decided to just attack Jews and said that slavery wasn't a white man's sport and tried to blame the transatlantic slave trade on the Jews. Not saying they weren't involved. A lot of people were involved, but to just blame it on the Jews? Ben Shapiro, he hates Black people. Leftists do that stuff all the time as a manipulation tactic. So anyway, there are the comments like, Trump doesn't actually care about the people of Venezuela. They need to be careful. And then to mention the deportations. Deporting people who do not belong here is not abnormal for countries to do. Countries protect their borders. We are not unique. There's countries that do it better than we do. Like that's what makes him so evil. The problem here is that so many people have convinced themselves that Trump is a dictator. They go to their little No King's Day marches think they're really doing something, and they don't actually know what a real dictator is. So these people in Venezuela celebrating about Maduro being gone, and we don't know what their whole future is going to be. So we still gotta be on the lookout for how if the United States can pressure what's left of the regime to play ball, and who's going to be left standing, and who can actually like function with the military, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot that's up in the air. Granted, that's true. But they're celebrating in the streets and they're very happy. Not just in Venezuela. There's a lot of Americans here who have, you know, who have who are Cubans, who are Venezuelans, etc., who are happy to see this and hope that change comes where they're from as well. Lots of people celebrating, but there's plenty of liberals that are very upset, and they're standing with the dictator because they want to stand against someone who they perceive to be a dictator. Trump is, you know, when Trump was asked about the No King's Day protests, he's like, if I was a king, I wouldn't have to go through all the hoops that I have to go through to get things done. If Trump was a king, do you think the government would have been shut down for as long as it was? That was the Democrats that had the government shut down, which they want to pretend like that wasn't them, but they were the ones continuously voting to keep the government shut down. And then they were able to change their mind after the election happened. Oh, Winston Sears lost. Okay. Let's open the government back up. Like I knew that would hurt in Virginia. I'm not saying that's the only reason why she lost, but they sort of factored that in. Anyway, I want to show you guys this video of a protester who was confronted with some of the victory going on in Venezuela and how excited people were. And they just didn't want to grasp it because they were busy, you know, trying to push communism, I suppose. And these protesters in New York, man, they got together so fast for all this stuff.
You should check out that communist flag over there.
What brings you out here today?
Where I'm organized with the Revolutionary Communists of America. We're out here to say hands off Venezuela. And we unequivocally stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialist aggression.
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets?
What?
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets today?
I saw images of Venezuelans being bombed after the U.S., bombed Caracas. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, I think you should definitely
show me the bombings that you're talking about. I didn't see any.
I don't know. I just saw it on Reddit. It was on the front page of the internet. So
okay.
I don't know.
But what do you think about the people celebrating? The hundreds of thousands of people that are in the streets celebrating?
I have yet to see it. Can you show me that?
Yeah.
Sure. U.S. imperialism.
People celebrating on the streets. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialism. The U.S. has no right to bomb the people of Venezuela. The U.S. has no right to kidnap another
Why are they all
another...
celebrating? Why are they celebrating?
I don't know. Do you have a correspondent there who can ask? I'm here demonstrating against. I'm here demonstrating against U.S. imperialism and the U.S. intervention.
Is this AI though? These images of everybody
I don't know.
celebrating?
You're the one showing me the video, so let me know. You're showing me the source.
I don't know. I don't think it's AI because it's being published by multiple news organizations. So just what are your thoughts on it?
I'm here protesting U.S. intervention,
I understand that.
U.S. imperialism, and U.S. capitalism.
U.S. capitalism. Okay. So everybody's bad except the U.S. I mean, everybody's okay except the U.S. U.S. bad force in the world for these folks, for these people. As there are some people who are on the right or consider themselves to be on the right who were leery about this as well, and saying that they didn't understand how it was America first. And if you haven't seen some of the videos from like Marco Rubio talking about it, like Trump has said some things like we want good neighbors and all this other kind of stuff, but Rubio doing like the Sunday shows explaining breakdowns about the interest that our adversaries have had in Venezuela. It makes sense, does it not? And this is the Western Hemisphere, like they're putting their tentacles in. And let me see if I can find the clip about the oil that he like, why they're like, well, why does the US need the oil? He's like, we don't need the oil, but why does China need the oil? And he also had a great clip about because a lot of people are concerned about long-term intervention and things that going on in the Middle East. And we didn't have clear goals and visions in the past, or they kept evolving as far as like Afghanistan. And that obviously wasn't good, and why we ended up being there for 20 years. And I think Marco Rubio is correct that these are far different sort of animals and the politics are not the same. But let me show you this particular clip that I was talking about.
Ask you about oil. The president says the U.S. is taking over the oil. The question is, I guess, if the purpose of the operation was to capture Maduro and bring him to justice, why does the United States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela since 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
So I think that those are some good points there to people who are like, what? How is this America first? We don't live in a bubble. We don't live it. There's a whole entire world around us. We're not the only ones who exist on the globe. So there's that. And there's people who talk about we don't need to be the world's police. And I would hear that all the time, especially people talk coming from the left. But I would always find it interesting that people would say they don't want us to be the world's police. But they want the world to basically be dumped into the United States of America to just accept all these different folks and to solve their problems by letting them immigrate and, take advantage of our welfare programs. And like, well, they have dreams and aspirations. Like, why can't they be here? Because when you do have people that come here en masse and they don't integrate, that leads to disruption. As far as our way of life and our culture, it is a drain on our system as well. So there's all sorts of things to consider. And then a lot of people will actually send money back to other countries. So we're not even getting the full benefit of the contributors that will come, because they'll send a lot of money out as well to take care of their families and overseas. And that'll become a large part of other people's economy, just our money leaving our country and going elsewhere. There's all kinds of different issues that happen. And so if you do have these countries that are destabilized and all these people want to leave, and like, well, we have to take them because they're refugees. Like, wouldn't you rather, I guess, try to help these folks along the way so they can not have this massive outpouring of people just trying to escape. And then Trump talks about, now he doesn't just talk about the drugs, but he also talks about he's releasing the mental institutions and all these people, these criminals and gang members. When he was addressing the media about some of the horrors that have gone on because of Maduro, he mentioned different people who have been murdered by gang members that have come into the United States of America and taken young and precious lives from us, from people who live here. So you can't just ignore the rest of the world like it doesn't exist. Like there's not greater politics going on. When Glenn Beck was at, I'm starting to kind of already lose my voice a little bit. When Glenn Beck was doing some tours after Charlie died, they had different guests come for Turning Point, and Glenn Beck did one. And so a Groyper person asked him a question about Israel and how they lobby the United States and different folks or whatever for their interests. And Glenn Beck responded in a way that I haven't seen a lot of people respond, but he made a really good point. And he said, do you know who like lobbies the most? The United States of America. They're like, we care about our interests and enact our interests and impose our interests everywhere. All countries try to do it, but United States does it the most, right? And I'm like, that's really true. We are bullies about trying to impose our interests. The idea that it's Israel, little teeny tiny Israel, that I believe we could drive across the country in like it's like the size of New Jersey or something like that. Like the route they were telling us when we were there to like get across was about the same time I used to drive doing when I worked at the Michigan Republican Party, when I had to drive from my house on the east side of the state to Lansing. So it's they'd be like, we got a long trip, you know, make sure you use the bathroom, and it's like 2 hours or something. It's like that's not that far to an American. It's such a small strip of land. To think that this little country, yes, there's a lot of drama, especially due to its historical backdrop and the enemies that surround it. You know, it's changed hands quite a bit as far as different control. You go to Israel, there's all kinds of different influences there. The Ottoman Empire, you see Egyptian stuff, hieroglyphics, a lot of interesting things in Israel because it's just been, you know, had a lot of roots in it, obviously. And there's a lot of history there, but it has all of these enemies that surround that one area of land. So it's very complicated over there, sure. But the idea that they're controlling the interests of like everybody around the world, and see Zionists doing all this kinds of different stuff, and the U.S. doesn't just do what it feels what's in its best interest is insane to me. Like, is it just about drugs? No, of course not. It's what we're going to charge him for, what he's guilty of. I don't know if New York's going to find him guilty. We'll see. But there's a lot of levers going on. A lot of levers going on. Let me play this clip of Rubio talking about the experts in the Middle East.
Number one, most of the experts that people have on television, I watch these experts and it's clown hour. Okay, these are people that have focused their entire career on the Middle East or some other part of the world because that's where all the action was. Very few of them know anything about Venezuela or the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela looks nothing like Libya. It looks nothing like Iraq. It looks nothing like Afghanistan. It looks nothing like the Middle East other than the Iranian agents that are running through there plotting against America. Okay, these are Western countries with long traditions among their at a people-to-people and cultural level and ties to the United States. So there's nothing like that. So I think people need to stop ascribing the apples and oranges here. The apples of the Middle East to the oranges of the Western Hemisphere.
But do you?
Number two, this is about the national interest of the United States. And what I'm confident of is we are in a safer and better place because we're taking it seriously. The alternative would have been to leave Maduro there as an indicted the drug trafficker, illegitimate president, running the country, open invitation for all of our adversaries to do whatever they want against the United States from Venezuela. That was not going to continue. The alternative would have been to allow a drug trafficker to continue to use national territory and elements of nation-state power to further drug trafficking organizations. Read the indictment. This guy used the levers of their security apparatus not to arrest drug traffickers, but to cooperate and facilitate the trafficking of drugs for the purpose of getting them into the United States. And that's going to stop.
So, as he said, it's about the interest of the United States of America. Oh, there's just one more about the UN. This was a great little snippet too, because they're asking me, what about what the UN says? And he's like, I don't care what the UN says. Which I agree. I don't care what the UN says.
No, you're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source. And the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug trade. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice. You're wrong in your question. Number one.
Yeah, so that one was going around too. Of course, people are condemning us in China and other places, but who cares? I guess. Who cares? Anyway, interesting story that is new and broke. There was a man arrested. He had a hammer, was wielding a hammer, broke into J.D. Vance's home, was smashing up windows. His name is William Dafoe, which makes me think of William Dafoe, but he goes by Julia. So it's assumed that he's in a transition, or I suppose. And he comes from a well-to-do liberal family whose parents are doctors and donors to Democrats. And so J.D. Vance wasn't there in Ohio. Of course, he lives, in the vice president, quarters and stuff with his family. But this is giving a lot of people like Kavanaugh vibes, because that was also like a trans vandal. Well, not vandal, was playing murder, but so this person has been arrested. I'm going to read from the New York Post. It's a very short article. The deranged hammer-wielding alleged vandal accused of busting several windows at Vice President J.D. Vance's home in Cincinnati is reportedly the son of a prominent millionaire family, of course, and appears to have been going by Julia in recent weeks. People need some like real world problems, Maybe times are too good for some people when they gotta go down these crazy kind of fantasy stuff, and then they are like, well, I'm gonna play soldier and whatnot. Like, go get a real job, go do real things, take care of real people, put your time and effort to good actual use, like the Luigi guy who killed the CEO. I'm like, instead of murdering a healthcare CEO, why not just use your own money to pay for people's healthcare, take care of some people, do the right thing, instead of going down this dark path because you want to be infamous or whatever. It's so annoying. but it appears to have been going by Julia in recent weeks. William DeFore, 26, was arrested early Monday after allegedly shattering four windows at Vance's home. Police said DeFore was attempting to break into the home around midnight. The Vances, who moved into the vice president's official residence in Washington, D.C. after the inauguration, were not in Ohio at the time. It is unclear whether DeFore identifies as transgender or non-binary, but who cares? What does that matter? But he recently appeared to be posting under the name Julia DeFore. Cops listed the suspect's name as William and his gender as male. And then they mentioned his mugshot about his little mullet. The family lives in a $1.3 million house in the city's wealthy Hyde Park neighborhood. The elder DeFore donated thousands to Kamala Harris' failed presidential campaign in 2024 after years of small contributions to a PAC that lobbied for urologists, according to federal records. He is also a longtime Democratic Party supporter, according to his public contributions. He donated upwards of $5,000 to former President Joe Biden and former Vice President Harris's respective campaigns in 2020 and 2024. He also previously backed a federal assault weapons ban in the wake of Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde, Texas, according to his Facebook. The younger DeFore appeared to have a fall from grace after graduating in 2018 from the Summit Country Day School, where he was hailed as a candidate for the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program. He had a 2-year stint at the University of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music, but appeared to drop out in 2020, according to his Facebook. He said earlier this year he was attending Cincinnati State Technical and Community College. The alleged vandal has a tricky mental health history, including a 2024 sentence for 2 counts of vandalism at a local interior design company. Instead of standard conviction, DeFore was sentenced to 2 years of mandatory mental health treatment, which is still ongoing, according to court documents obtained by Cincinnati.com. In April 2023, DeFore was charged with trespassing at the UC Health Psychiatric and Emergency Services. He was originally held on a $10,000 bond, but a judge determined he was not mentally competent to stand trial. I did not realize this article was this long, and I didn't read all of it. Counsel dismissed in November 8th filing that year. DeFore is charged with obstructing official business, criminal damaging and endangering, criminal trespass, and vandalism, according to Hamilton County Jail records. And his first court appearance is scheduled Tuesday. That is the end of the article. Oh, gosh. There's a lot of people who have mental health issues, and they end up going this route, and you see that they're trans. And I'm not saying it's because, I think something's wrong if you believe in your identifying that sort of way, one way or another. But I think people who have different issues with their health are more susceptible to this different ideology. And there's a lot of people who are unwell, and instead of kind of managing their life in more constructive ways, they head toward political violence, or maybe it's just activism at first, and they'll head toward political violence. Because that is a way that they feel that they can control their lives or control the world and do something substantial, rather than taking the Jordan Peterson route, which is go clean your room, take up your own life. Do something about your own life, handle what you can control. Like, you don't have to go be a climate terrorist because you're concerned about a drop in 2 degrees or 2 degrees rising in the next 100 years or something like that. You can't do anything about that. You shouldn't be an eco-terrorist. Like, go get a nice degree, and maybe you can figure out something, in a different positive direction. But you don't go decide to go tie up a politician because, they believe in oil or something, So a lot of these people are unfortunately unwell, and we haven't had enough conversations about all this stuff, especially after what happened to Charlie Kirk. Because unfortunately there's been a lot of distractions from a lot of people who don't seem to want to talk about this particular stuff. So we'll have to talk more about it. I saw that Jimmy Kimmel got an award the other night, and he talked about how he was canceled, and he lost his show a little bit, and he said it was a little bit like watching my funeral. And he said that he was glad that there was so much pushback, and he's like, people were desperate. He used the word desperate to see him come back, and it made me think about the person who, I think he shot up an no, I'm sorry. That happened around that time. Someone shot up an ABC affiliate. A Democrat who was apparently anti-gun and stuff shot up an ABC affiliate because of Jimmy Kimmel going off air for a little bit. And I don't think that made Jimmy's speech. And it's something a lot of people haven't talked about. There's been a lot of distractions, but there was, even after Charlie was murdered, there was a continuation of left-wing violence that happened against ICE facilities, that happened against the ABC facility. And we still see the trans violence going on, and not enough focus about these people being unwell and then latching on so firmly into politics. Think about all these people who go out for the No King's Day stuff. I'm like, go get a real life. Go get a real life. You don't know what it's like to be under a king, to be under a real dictator, because it's not Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump. And the funny thing about Donald Trump compared to like other people who could have been the president or whatever is that Donald Trump, he's a bit of a wild child, just to be frank. But there's so much accountability that happens because, one, he gets sued all the time, so they'll go through the courts and different stuff like that. So if he is doing something that's crazy, and the conservative justices is like not like they're in his pocket. If he does something that they disagree with as far as the Constitution is, they will rule against him. They're not just ideologically pro-Trump. They are ideologically, what does the Constitution say? And if he's wrong, they'll shoot him down. And tons of stuff that Trump has tried to do, it's like lawsuit. There's lawfare against him in that regard. People have been overdoing it. But people will challenge him that way. The media will challenge him, cover him nonstop. It's way different than Biden not being accessible to the media and them lying all the time and hiding him. And then the media like pretending like, what do you mean he's crazy? That's fake news. What do you mean he's losing it? That's not true. That's a deep fake or cheap fakes and all kinds of stuff. The media would just let Kareem say whatever from the podium, and then they would just echo it. And that would be their propaganda. Donald Trump, he again, wild man sometimes, but there's a lot of accountability because people want to hold him accountable because he has so many enemies. One of the scariest things I thought about Hillary Clinton being president was how in the tank the media was for her. And I'm like, is there going to be any real accountability if this person ends up in office? That really concerned me. I was so glad that she lost. Anyway, I'm glad that JD is safe. There's a lot of sick people in the world, though. I'm sure he won't be the last target from these sorts of crazy ideologies. The last thing I wanted to talk about, I don't really have much time to talk about it, so I think I will table it a bit. But I mentioned it, so let me go ahead and briefly summarize, and we can go ahead and watch the video tomorrow. So Scott Adams on Sunday, it was announced that he was people were saying that he was converting to Christianity. And so I watched the clip that was captioned because I'm happy to hear that, and something I've been praying for. And so Scott says something that Pendulette and other people say, like, when people who are Christian try to get you to convert, he's not offended by that, because why wouldn't you want people to convert if you think your thing is true? And so people were telling Scott, like, it's not too late, you can go ahead and convert. And so Scott is at the point where he says that he still believes he has time, and he plans to convert, because now at this point in time, there's not really any risk to not being a Christian, because if he's wrong, he loses nothing, and if he's right, he gets to go to heaven. So he said that he's going to go ahead and become a Christian. Now, there's a lot of people who are like, oh yes, he's converted, my brother in Christ. I'm like, okay, well, he didn't do it yet. And some people are like, you can't just, you do it, or you believe or you don't believe. There's people who drag their feet though to the altar and they weigh it. I've heard stories about that. It's weird to drag your feet when you're literally dying, in my opinion. And to me, it sounded a little bit like running out the clock a bit. But the thing that was concerning to me the most was that Scott said, from his understanding about Christianity, he believed that, like, the popular position, or the main position, is that if you are a good person, you just kind of end up in heaven, and you don't need to do anything prior. And so I don't know if he just felt like he's a decent person, he's gonna end up in heaven, and once he's there, he's be like, okay, I'm on the team. I don't know if that's exactly his understanding of it, but that's not how it works. And so I think I would assume a lot of people didn't actually listen to the full clip of that was going around with Scott talking about Christianity and his future planned conversion. But you don't end up in heaven by being a good person. I mean, no one is good but God. I mean, that's what the Bible actually says. But and our deeds are like filthy rags. We there's nothing you can do to be good enough to achieve heaven. There's just not. And then our sins still need to be accounted for and judged. So God is a righteous God, so there needs to be some kind of judgment for that, but Jesus already paid it all. So if you want to get to heaven, the price is perfection, which we can't reach. We can't do that. And we're not perfect, and all have sinned and fallen short. So that's why we trust in Jesus Christ, who's God, who died on the cross for our sins, for the debt of our sins. And we believe that he rose again on the third day. And if you don't understand, I guess, you don't have to exactly understand all this stuff to receive Christ. That's not what I'm saying. But to me, it was also, I guess, I was flabbergasted, because there's so many people who have opinions about Christianity, and then they say something, like someone will deconstruct, or an atheist will say something finally about it. It's like you had your criticism of it, but you don't understand the most kind of basic thing. Like we don't believe that you're good and you just end up in heaven. That's the opposite, like literally the opposite. So I just found it I don't know, a little alarming how many Christians were just kind of like, I said it was like the drowning meme, where there's like a hand someone drowning, and then someone comes and they high five them, and then they keep drowning instead of like helping them out. it's and I know like everyone's like, oh cool, that's so great. It's like how come no one is explaining the actual gospel message to Scott? And he says he has Christian friends and he has obviously a lot of Christian followers who have been praying for him and so on. I'm like, okay, where's this misconception about the Bible coming from? And by the way, I mean, people say stuff like that and they usually kind of jump on it. Like Trump mentioned something about getting into heaven. He's like, oh, I don't know if I'll get there, but I keep doing all these things. I got all these peace deals. I'm doing all these great things. I don't know if I'll get there, but I'm doing all these nice things. It's like, okay, well, you can't, it doesn't matter how many peace deals you do. It doesn't matter how many lives you physically save. In this life, you are still a guilty sinner and your debt of sin needs to be paid. Jesus already paid it all, though, and you can trust in him and accept that gift that was already given to you. Trump can't do anything himself as far as earning his way into heaven. You can't earn your way there. That's not how it works. So, Trump got a lot of pushback, and it is a little puzzling because I know he's been around different he's got a ton of minister friends, and I'm assuming Paula White. I know a lot of people don't like Paula White. That he must have heard a sermon, a little, some kind of explanation about it. But again, if people aren't really serious about, I guess, like, seeking the truth and knowing the truth and accepting the truth, then maybe they're not retaining what it is, I guess. So, Allie Beth Stuckey, I saw, replied to Scott and mentioned like you can't earn your way, and she said it very nicely. And there was a very few people from what I was saying. So Scott responded and said that he's getting a lot of responses and he was thinking about backing out because there's people saying there's only one way, and that's, I guess, turning him off. That's why I screenshot that and sent that to my sister Tina, and she's like, there is only one way. And I had said that to someone else, and then they got really mad at me. They're like, well, what do you mean there's one way? And then I looked, and they were Jewish. I'm like, okay, why are you so offended about what the Christians believe? Like, you ain't a Christian, bro. Like, and I just explained that that's not, Scott is expressing the exact opposite of what Christians believe. So anyway, that's a little summary of it, and we'll maybe watch it together tomorrow. But I got pushback. People were like, why are you so negative? Why are you so judgmental? And like, you don't have to be right all the time. You could be humble instead of being right. And I'm like, explain to me in the Bible where I'm supposed to just like let, I don't know, some kind of giant heresy that's about the opposite of our religion just remain in the atmosphere to be humble for people's feelings. And also at the same time, I feel like if people can just dissuade you from your walk with Christ, that's not about people blaming on people all the time. There's a lot of people with church hurt, we could call it. Some people don't have, I've heard a lot of ridiculous church hurt, and I've heard some really valid, like, yeah, people really did you wrong. But at the end of the day, your relationship with Christ is your relationship with Christ, and you can't let some mortal flesh bag get in the way of the truth. So if you're going to let someone distract from that, I don't think that issue really there is with people. I think that issue there is with you. And if Scott's going to let correction lead him from not taking the wager, the Pascal's wager or whatever, to get into heaven, I think that's really about Scott's pride and not everybody else who he understands is coming from a genuine place of concern for his well-being and his eternity. So, someone said, Oh, I must have a typo in my title. So, uh, yeah, I guess maybe I do. Yep, I do. JD. Someone came in the comments to laugh about it. I'm sorry. We'll just blame it on the flu. But thank you. I did just there we go. I just edited it. Thumbnail misprint. Someone said can't say that in the Bible. Nowhere does it say good deeds get you into heaven. Yeah, I wasn't really even complaining a lot. I didn't feel like I was trying to attack Scott or anything like that. I was more frustrated by, I guess, a lot of MAGA influencers, because that's who I was seeing like respond a lot and retweet, and I'm like, my Twitter following is very small compared to like all my other platforms and stuff, and I'm like, okay, Benny Johnson and a bunch of other folks could tweet out a concise explanation of what the gospel is, and Scott will probably see it. I don't know if he'll receive it. But it's not just good for Scott to see it. It's good for other people to see it too. And so it's a good opportunity to lay it all out there, and people just highlighting and kind of high-fiving this wrong sort of thinking was very puzzling to me. Very puzzling to me. Again, maybe everybody didn't actually watch the video. But I did. And I'm like, this is quite literally the opposite of the gospel. And not only like Christians will debate about stuff all the time. Like Catholics and Protestants will have an argument about, was Mary a perpetual virgin, and did she have children? Did the Bible mentions that Jesus has brothers and sisters, and it's like, well, did they actually mean cousins? And like, there's debates like that. I suppose Catholics might argue that is there's some doctrine about how you have to believe that she's a perpetual virgin, but I was going to say that's not like believing except one way or another about that doesn't impact your salvation. Debating about I don't know, whether you believe in evolution versus, creation or something like that. That's a big argument people can get but that's not about whether or not you're going to be saved or something. It's not whether your deeds not being able to get you into heaven. That is a core central thing about Christianity. You can't get that wrong. I'm not saying you have to be perfect when you're like humbly coming before God to say like, I want to be saved. Like, I don't understand all the metrics and everything, but if you're true, you're real out there, God, I'm trusting in you. Like, that's fine. But I just don't want Christians affirming a lot of wrong stuff, I guess. I didn't think that was a crazy position to have. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm a little over, and that's fine. We haven't talked in a long while. My voice did last. Had to take some water, and I did cough, but you guys didn't see it. But I had my little video playing, so you didn't have to see me hacking or whatever. I hope you guys had a nice holiday. As far as going forward this year, I just hope to continue to grow Black Tea and do some more traveling and things like that. Maybe some get more into doing some interviews with different guests and things like that. as well. I still have like a bunch of like in Israel content that I have to post. I meant to really do a lot of that in the period of vacation, but I really was sleeping most of the time. I was really sick. So we'll get back on that as well. And I plan to doing some other traveling. Of course, there's a midterms and getting more um active in just the local politics and stuff. And I haven't been as active since really my mom died. I'm aware, but like going to different meetings and things like that. So I want to um get back really on that sort of train, but it should be interesting. In Michigan, it's definitely going to be interesting. Minnesota was going to be really interesting. I wonder how the Republican with Tim Walz running again, it was a good opportunity for Republicans, but now since he dropped out, it's obviously not as good as an opportunity, but I hope they run someone really competent. I mean, we should only be running really competent people to run for governor positions and stuff anyway, but I hope you guys figure it out if you're watching from Minnesota. Anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.